Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. Today I read a news story and I actually saw it on television as well. And I'm sure that many in the nation have heard about this story. It involves a series of shootings that occurred at a restaurant in Waco, Texas. At this restaurant, several white biker gangs had a meeting. Instead of it just being a regular meeting, what happened was it erupted into a scene of violence and carnage. 9 people were killed, 18 people were sent to the hospital. According to a news report that I read on the Washington Post, blood was everywhere. The scene was littered with 100 different types of weapons. People were stabbed, people were shot. It was a brutal scene. It was a brutal scene. And it just made me reflect upon the double standards that exist in this country. The double standards that exist with respect to the news and how issues are covered in this country. See, when incidents of violence occur in a Black community, Black people as a collective group of people are demonized and stereotyped based on the actions of a few. African Americans are often referred to as being thugs, as hooligans. And these words don't just come from the mouth of opinionated pundits. These words come from the mouths of our distinguished African American politicians. These words come from white people as well, referring to Black people as thugs, condemning Black people as a group. All Black people are viewed as bearing some kind of responsibility for these individual acts of violence. We're preached to about so-called Black on Black violence when these things occur. But when this brutal killing took place in Waco, Texas, I didn't hear anybody preaching about white on white violence. I didn't hear anyone refer to these bike gangsters as thugs, as hooligans. I didn't hear anyone pontificating about the absence of the fathers in the home. I didn't hear anyone talking about the breakdown of the family structure. I didn't hear any of that stuff. We didn't hear it because there's a double standard. See, in this country, white people are judged as individuals. They don't bear the responsibility or the burden of individual criminal acts that are committed by members of their race. Instead, those individuals are viewed as what they are, individuals, individual criminals. But somehow we're expected to feel ashamed, or we're expected to bear the burden of the bad behavior that a few African Americans engage in as far as the big picture is concerned. Last year in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, there were incidents of violence during Black Bike Week, a historically African American motorcycle event. There were sporadic shootings around the city of Myrtle Beach. Separate incidents. Nothing on the scale of this scene of violence and carnage that you saw in Waco, Texas. But those African Americans as a group were condemned. The whole event was condemned. You had the governor calling for the end of Black Bike Week in Myrtle Beach. And you even had some of these tap dancing, bootlicking house Negroes here on YouTube echoing that sentiment. You had these people referring to their own black people as the N-word. They were up in arms condemning black people and using all kinds of slurs against the black community. But you don't hear that type of language when it involves white people. Also, the other issue is the reaction of the police department. There are photographs of these biker gangsters just chilling, just sitting down. The police are calm. Everything is chill. You would think they were at a picnic or something. After all this carnage, after all this violence, after this horrible scene where all these people were killed at once and 18 sent to the hospital and probably more than that were injured. But the police are just chilling with these gangsters. Just chilling with them. But that's not the reaction that we get from the police. All we have to do is look at these photos in social media. They compare the police reaction to black people and the police reaction to these white gangsters. When it comes to the black man, these police had their guns drawn, ready to shoot, ready to take out black people. And it's important to point out that these white bikers, they actually fired shots at the police. They shot at the police. But this is the reaction that we get from the police. They're just chilling with these gangsters. Imagine if some black people shot at the police, what the scene would look like. We saw what happened in Ferguson. We saw the police out occupying the streets of Ferguson like U.S. troops occupied the streets of Iraq. See, there's a different reaction. We have other examples of this double standard of the law enforcement community. Recently here on YouTube, there was a video that was posted that has gone viral. An open arms or open carry group conducted a test, and they videotaped their test. They showed a white man carrying an automatic weapon in public. And I can't remember where this occurred, but in that state, the people have the right to bear arms openly in public. So you had a white person bear arms in public, and the police officer just politely walked up to him and asked him some questions. The white man answered those questions, and he was on about his business. They let him go. There was no scene. A black man tried to do the same thing. And what did the police do? They pulled over like it was an emergency. They jumped out of the car, and without asking any questions whatsoever, they pointed guns at this black man and told him to get down on the ground. And they took his weapon away from him and placed him in handcuffs when he was abiding by the laws in that jurisdiction. He was breaking no laws. They have the right to open carry there. But they assumed that this black man was a killer or something, a thug, and they treated him as such. But the white man was given a pass. And that's what the media is doing with respect to these bikers. They're giving them a pass. And this happens all the time. You had a white man, a pilot, a few weeks ago. And from what I think he was from Germany, if I'm not mistaken. But he crashed a plane, deliberately crashed a plane into mountains, killing over 100 people. over 100 people. And it's just dismissed as hardly not that big of a deal because he had some mental issues. That's the way they describe when white people commit atrocities. They have some emotional problems. They have some mental issue. Instead of calling them out for what they are, murderers just like any other murderer, they're given a pass. Imagine if that person was an Arab. Imagine the condemnation that you would hear on Fox News. Imagine that. But you don't get that condemnation because it's a white man. Instead, you get reflections on the issue of mental illness. You get speculation about personal problems. Instead of calling this person out for what they are, a brutal killer, a serial killer that has no regard for human life. If that was an Arab, he would have been called a terrorist. He would have been condemned universally, worldwide, on every media available. And those Fox News people would be going ape shit, basically. And the same is true as if that was a black man. We would get lectures about incompetence. We will be told about how he's a thug. But they give these white people a pass. This happens regularly. So I just wanted to share these thoughts with you, and I look forward to reading your comments. Please rate, comment, and subscribe. Peace.